Hi and welcome back. Today we're going to finish our Web3 operations in our wallet. And yesterday we created a set of operations that we could use, or rather, in the previous video we created a set of operations we could use, and these operations are the foundation for making the rest of our wallet. So we're writing the wallet anew, and we have the operations available now. We have a worker that will do the various things we want to do. And today we are going to integrate this with the UI. So with that, we will move to our terminal and just start our server up again. And so in today's video, what we will do is we'll create a transaction preparing form, a transaction submitting screen, a transaction confirmed screen, and a transaction form that will allow us to form a transaction. Then we will use that to start the process of signing a transaction. We'll submit that to our local network and actually see that things are working. So with this, let's get started with the transaction preparing. We need to go to our components here, and we have this is our transaction list. This is the transfer we would like to do. And here we're going to add a few new files. So we'll add transaction confirmed, the form or the screen that we will show once the transaction has been confirmed. We will add transaction form, the form that we use for setting up a transaction. We will add a transaction preparing, which is a screen while the transaction is preparing. And then finally we'll have the receipt form, which is a transaction submitted. Starting out with, actually let's start out by just defining these modules. So we have receive form, we have module send form, we have module transaction form, we have module transaction confirmed, module transaction preparing, and module transaction submitted. Cool. And let's start out by doing the transaction preparing form. So as always, we'll import the material we need, and then we'll just create a set of properties for this form. Partial EQ. And so this struct is going to be called transaction preparing props. And for now, we'll just leave it empty. Next, we'll do a function component. Which will return HTML. And this will just return an HTML component for now. So we're just going to add a simple placeholder text for now, which says preparing transaction, please wait while your transaction is being prepared. So super simple. This is the simplest thing of the things that we need to do. Let's just see, there is something that seems to be off here. We need to have another closing. Likewise, we just copy this one across to submit it, and for this one we are going to change this one to submitting, and also here submitting. And then the properties, we're going to do a transaction hash, which is optional because it may or may not be there depending on whether we are submitting or submitted. And then if this transaction hash is present, we're going to have an additional field just saying, okay, this is a transaction hash. Cool. The final screen of the event screens, let's call them like that, is the transaction confirmed. And so this one is having a transaction hash. And now we're sure that the transaction hash is there because we have confirmed the transaction. It will have a block number. And we're going to add a callback. And so this callback is for when you have shown the screen, you might want to start another transaction right after that. And so we're just going to make a callback that allows us to update, that allows us to create a new transaction. Right. The form itself is also quite a bit of HTML. We're just going to copy this across. So for those who will be signing up for the course, this is provided as additional material that you can just copy paste, but it is too much to write out in a video, so we're just copy pasting it. But basically we have some information here saying the transaction is confirmed, your transaction was successfully confirmed on the blockchain, this is a transaction hash, this is a block number, and send another transaction. Cool. Let's see. Then the bigger component here is the transaction sent or transaction form. So for this one, we'll need our UI component set, and we'll need you. And we will start out by making a property struct. And so for this struct, we have the possibility of having an error we want to show the user. We have the recipient, the amount, the password, and is submitting. So this is for the state itself. Then for the properties, we will create a transaction form properties which has a form state. So this is where we store the state of the form, and so this is the state up here. So we're passing that in as a use handler, because then we can update the state but keep it in the parent, keeping the state in the parent, which is useful for such that the parent is aware of where we are in the process. Right. And then we provide some references to various components. This allows us to extract the information in the parent object. Finally, we have an unsubmit and an untransaction error. And this makes that our whole transaction form is really just a HTML form that makes that our final send form will be much shorter, but there's really no logic in this form. And again, this is just like the previous components, it's a lot of HTML mostly, so we're just copying that through. Send transaction form, right? It's a form. We check if there are some errors. If there are some errors, we're going to show what the errors are, and we're just going to explain to the user the details of the error. And other than that, we'll ask them to enter a recipient address. We'll ask them to enter an amount, and we'll ask them to enter a password. And that is pretty much it. Getting back to our send form, this is where it all comes together. So in this form, we will be using all the components we have just implemented. We will, so the transaction confirmed, oh wait, I think transaction submitting, that one is misspelled. Let's just fix that. And that means we also need, oh, we did it right here. Oh, or it updated by itself. Anyway, so in the send form, we'll be using all of the things we've just made. We'll use the send form state to store the state. We'll use the transaction form to collect the data, and then we'll show the respective screens depending on where we are in the process. We'll use our wallet actions to initiate the action. We'll use the wallet store sorry, that's actually incorrect. We'll use the wallet store implementation to initiate the action. We'll use the wallet state to make sure that we can reset some of the progress, like transaction status and whatnot. And that's pretty much it. And then we'll be using our UI, we'll use UDocs, and we'll use the ethers library. So let's add the function component here. So the first thing we want to do is set up the form state and also keep references to the different fields in the form itself. We'll need the wallet store and the dispatcher for the wallet store. And the first thing we are going to implement is the reset button. So basically on new transaction, which is going to be a callback that we derive from a closure. We're just going to set the default state on the form state, and then we will dispatch a wallet action that updates the transaction status, because that one needs to be reset to transaction status none. So when we just reset, we do not have a transaction status. And for this to work, we need to make sure that we clone the variables that we're moving into the closure. So keep in mind that the memory model for Rust is very different from Python and from TypeScript. So we need to clone the variables that we are moving into this closure. So that's the keyword here, move, that tells us we're moving dispatch and form in. And so we're creating a copy of these ones and then moving them into the closure so that has its own lifetime and not dependent on the current scope. Okay. Next thing we want to do is the onSubmit. And again, this is a callback that we derive from a closure. And the first thing we want to do is prevent the default. So that is to say that if we're clicking the button and we want to prevent that if the button was doing anything, let's say it was a submit button, we want to prevent it from doing anything. And then next we want to set the updated state. So this assumes that we will not have any errors. Recipient form state dot recipient clone. Right, and so the reason why we are setting error to none is because we're just resubmitting the form. At this point, the user should have corrected all of the things that we previously explained them was an error. Right. We need to remember to clone the things that we need to get in. So that's the form state and the references to the various HTML components, and of course our dispatcher. Then extracting the value, we will do recipient was recipient. So we're taking the reference here and we're casting that into a websys HTML input element. And so that is, we take a generic node ref, we're casting that into a HTML input element, and we expect that to work, of course, because we've made sure that is correct. But this is one of the things where you can't actually be sure at compile time, because you need the HTML to verify these things, and this is one of the things that will not happen. So therefore we are doing some dynamic casting here. Right. And finally, once we have gotten the reference to the right type, we'll turn that into a value. This is a little bit more involved than what you would expect in JavaScript, because in JavaScript, it will just have whatever type it has, and either the property value exists or not. Rust is different. It requires you to have the specific type, so you can't just do recipient ref.value because maybe that property does not exist. This is why we're doing the cast first. Okay, we do the same for amount and password. And with that, we are ready to start passing the recipient address. So we want to make sure that the recipient address is correct. And so the way we do this is we're going to match recipient. And remember from yesterday or the day before, we have this pass that allows us to pass an address or an H160 as we do in this case. And then we can do, okay, so this will either succeed or it will fail. And if it fails, we're going to just set the form state and return early, but we will add the error, right? So we are just copying the values across, but then this time we are adding the error. This is wrong, and we are no longer submitting. Finally, we add a semicolon here to let it know that we are moving the address value into the recipient. Cool. Then we do similar checks for the password, just to check if the password is empty or not. If the password is empty, there's no reason to go on. And we have, again, a similar check where we will pass the amount, but the passing of the amount is going to be a little bit different because this is the last step we will do, right? If the amount passes correctly, then we're ready to submit. So we're going to do amount result. And let's start with the error this time, because if there is an error, we're just going to do what we've done in the other cases. We will set the form state with an error message saying that this is an invalid amount. But if it is okay, we are ready to start the process of submitting. And we still have a few things we want to do here. Right, let's just see. Right. We still have another check to do, so we're going to create an error variable. We're just checking if the amount value is lower than 0, then we actually have another error, and we're just going to add some amount must be greater than 0 and do into. So into basically tells Rust, figure out what the result type should be, because I couldn't be bothered, right? But otherwise, if we don't have an error, then yeah, everything is good. Then we are updating the form state. So we're saying if we're cloning the error, so the error is either some or it's none at this point. And if it's none, then everything is good. This is just updated. If it is none, then we are not submitting. Sorry, then I got that one wrong. If it is none, then we are submitting. If it is some, then we are not submitting. And now we're finally checking if error that is some. We're just going to return early because there is an error we need the user to address. Cool. Then we need to convert the amount into way, and we use the path ether amount value to string dot unwrap. And this should work by now, because we've done all the checks to ensure that what we're doing is actually correct. And with that, we can dispatch a preparing. So we're updating the transaction status so that we're now preparing the transaction. And we then use the dispatcher to tell it to send the transaction. And that is pretty much it for our submission. So this is our submission function that we have here. Cool. Then for the next bit, we are going to conditionally change a few things depending on where we are in the flow. Right, so we have the unsubmit now, and the first thing we want to know is the transaction in progress or progress. And so it is in progress if the transaction status is not none and it's not failed. And actually, I think we should also have completed here, shouldn't we? The next thing, let's check if we have an error or not. So that is to say, if there is an error, we want to extract it. And so the thing here is we get the error from the transaction state. And if there is an error, we're going to return some error.clone. And otherwise, we're going to return none. So now transaction error will either be some error or it will be none. Let's add clone. Okay, cool. And now comes the bigger part. So we need to cover all the different transaction states we are having. So we might have that the transaction is none or failed. Then we might have that we are either building the transaction, preparing the transaction, or signing the transaction, in which case we want to show another view. We might have that we are submitting the transaction, and we might have that the transaction is confirmed. So these are all the different transaction statuses we could have. And depending on what we are doing, we want to show the respective dialogues, right? So in this case where we are building, preparing, or signing, we're just going to return the preparing transaction view. If we are submitting the transaction, we will add the transaction submitting view. So we already did all of the code for this. We just need to add the respective components. The same counts for transaction confirmed. And the only case left is when it's none or failed. In that case, we want to show the transaction form. And so that is to say, if it failed, we want to go back to the transaction form with all of the values that we had and say, this is the error. If it is none, we want to if it is none, then we want the form to just be shown with the empty state that we have. And I think this is about as much as we need for this form. Let's check if things are compiling. Could not find root pack. Let's see what went wrong here. Could not find root package. Great. Interesting. I did not expect this to happen. let's see. I think I might have chosen a different tool chain to what we used yesterday. So let's just try to switch that back. Rust up default. Okay, let's try to see. Actually, I recall now we need something with addition. Let's try this one. With edition 2024. Okay, we will need to just Google this. I've never seen this before. Okay, let's try to run cargo build. That might shed some light on what's going on here. Okay, so everything compiles. That means that we haven't made any mistakes there. So question is, what has changed? Oh, wait, we need to run this from the front end, right? Oh, this is right. So the problem is I was running this from the root package of the whole thing. We need to run this from the front end, of course. Obviously. Very silly mistake on my part. Right. And now, because we've been fiddling around with Rust up, we're having the wrong tool chain, so let's just fix that. Cool, things are compiling. And let's see, so we have the send form. That one is defined here. We want to re-export that one here. Well, actually we want to use it inside of the transfer component here, don't we? Because if we do that, that should all show up in our UI. And yes, I think that's exactly what we will do. So probably we want to have two modes. We want to do pub use send form, and then here we're going to create a enum. This enum will be comparable and all the other things. Then we're going to do a transfer view, send, receive, and then we will do a active view that will tell us which view are we on. Are we going to send something, or are we going to receive something? And then using this we'll use OneUp UI to create a nice setup with some cards. We're having card header, card content, send, receive in a tab list, and then we're going to put our send form right here. Let's see if this still compiles. Oh, and now we broke everything. Send form on new transaction, unknown fields. Okay, we have a bunch of errors to fix here, which is good. I would have been surprised if we had done this without doing anything wrong whatsoever. So let's just try to set. This one is complaining about our transaction form. Send form state, but that is what it's called, isn't it? Let's just check. Send form state. Yeah, that should be okay. But did we remember it's marked here as... So if we go back here and have a look. Okay, this one is easy. Let's start with that one. And probably I have misspelled this. Yeah, I thought so. That was a bunch of issues we fixed there. Transaction confirmed. What was the issue with that one? That was that we hadn't added the properties, right? So we have defined the properties up here, but we forgot to add them into the function signature. We need to do that. Let's just try to clear the errors. And here's the same thing. We've forgotten to add the properties. We've defined them, but did not add them. And transaction confirmed. We have some components we forgot to import. So need to have button variant. And we also need to have button. Right, and I've misspelled send form. I've called that send from. So let's fix that. It's here in mud. Okay, let's see how many errors we managed to get rid of here. Send form state and transaction form. I'm a little bit surprised. Send transaction, not in wallet action. Okay. Send transaction form. Let's see what's going on here, because I'm pretty sure we have defined this one. Send transaction form. Let's just check. Did we misspell that one? I don't think so. We didn't misspell that one either. Let's just make sure that it's not a visibility issue. It shouldn't be, but it could be. See, components, transfer. Let's just do let tab value, and then we're simply just going to turn this into a string by doing a match statement here. That should fix that issue. And then we don't have the send transaction in the wallet actions. Let's just add that as well. And so the send transaction should have a to address. It should have a amount. Okay. So what we're going to do here is just make sure that we have an action that allows us to send the transaction as well, just to follow the pattern that we have done all the other places. And what this action will do is simply just invoke the function we wrote yesterday, or wrote in the previous video. So we will send transaction, and it will have to amount, password. Right, and with that we do if let And if you recall, in the previous video, we created this function process transaction to mount password. And so if this fails and we get an error out of it, we're going to just set the error on the new state. Last error equals some wallet error timestamp UTC now. And we need a semicolon here for that to work out for us. That should fix the issue with send transaction. And we should be left with that one thing where it can't figure out. Oh, we forgot to save this form. Is that? I really hope that's not the issue. Well, I hope it is the issue, but it would be an embarrassing issue, forgetting to save the file. Let's see. And then we have here send, receive. This should all be fine. Oh, and we don't have any. We're just going to do span placeholder. Okay, in actions we need to import the address as well. So let's just add that. That should fix that issue. We also need to import U256. And then in send form, it complains about something we've done wrong here, line 40. So it isn't happy with this new transaction. Why is it not happy with that one? Oh, right, I see. No, I don't see. I thought I saw. Yeah, so the issue is here. This is line 40 from, right? So we've forgotten to add the keyword from. We want to do this from a closure. And so this ought to fix things for that part. Let's have a look. Let's just remove that from now, just to see. I think that's the last error we have. Okay, everything is compiling now. We have our wallet. So it'll be very interesting to see, can we transfer funds or can we not transfer funds? That's the question. And as explained in the previous video, let's use the test phrase for Anvil. Just come up with some password that you can easily remember. We set up the wallet. We have 10,000 ETH on it. We should now have a transfer view, right? So we have a transfer view, send and receive here. And let's try this out. I am super curious if this works. So we add an address and we are going to just send 100 ETHs. We add our password. Oh, let's go. Transaction confirmed. Cool. Let's see. Can we see? Yeah, you see here. This is our transaction. This is the gas used. This is the block hash. And nice. And we have taken away 100 ETH from our wallet. So there you go. We are now in the position where we have created a wallet. You can get your balance. You can set it up with a seed phrase. We store the password encrypted. We can send funds with it. And we can also receive funds, right? Because you have this QR code that is up here. So basically on the front end part, we are very, very close to being done. Like obviously we can keep on improving. We can make extra things with wallet security, add more things around the wallet details and all of that. But the point here is really to get you going and get you that confidence in that you can build a full wallet system. And so we've so far built the wallet front end. We've gotten it to interact with Anvil, and we've shown that we can do transfers. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with this. Like, we can send another transaction. Like, there's clearly more work we can do to refine it, but it still feels like we're in a really good state here. Okay, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I think in the next one, I can't recall what it is that we will be doing. Let me just have a look. But I think in the next one, we're going to start working on the backend. Yeah, I think that's it, right? So that in the next video, we'll start working on the backend, making sure you can log in, making sure that we load the wallet, making sure that we have all of these things that we need for the wallet to actually work. So I think that would be really good. And I'm really looking forward to doing this piece as well. And hopefully by the end of this, you'll see how you can build a full stack application with front end being done in Rust, with back end being done in Rust, with APIs and interaction to blockchain done in Rust. So you stick with one framework that has super tight checks on all the types and making sure that there are no trivial mistakes in what you're doing. Okay, see you in the next video.